As you're on your coding journey, a skill set that you're going to develop isn't necessarily with the syntax and getting better at writing it. It isn't just your experience, but it's how you think through problems. Because when you're new, you see a feature, you see a request, and you think, hey, how do I build this? What libraries do I need? What codes do I need? But when you're more experienced, you start to ask the question of, hey, what's the real problem? What exactly am I solving? Who's my audience? So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you'll want to consider as you're thinking through problems and how to solve those in real applications. The first thing that you want to think through is to understand the outcome and not just the feature. As you're starting out, you want to just jump straight into code and you want to begin to write the perfect syntax. But as you become more experienced, you're going to first take a bird's eye view to say, hey, what exactly am I looking to accomplish here? Who is this for? What should the end user experience feel like? And what does done actually look like to my customer and to the end user? That's where you kind of want to get some clarity for the overall project, not just jump straight into code. Because if you jump into code and you don't have a clear understanding of this, you're going to have to go back, make changes, and this just going to prolong the entire process. So this is something that you want to consider first is, hey, the who, what, when, where, how of this problem. The next thing you'll want to consider in that problem solving journey is how to take the larger issue and break it down into smaller parts. Initially when you have an issue, it could be overwhelming and you say, hey, how do I solve this? Let me jump on Google. I have no clue what to do. Let me go ask a question. As you become more seasoned and experienced as a developer, you want to leverage those resources in a very precise and efficient manner, the same way you will as you write your code. So you kind of want to start to think about what is the input, what's the logic, what is the output that I'm looking for, what does fail, what messages am I getting back from my logs or from the terminal or from the console, and then how do I break this into smaller chunks? And then from there, then you want to leverage your Googles or your Chat GPTs or your Stack Overflows or whatever you do to kind of help work through those issues. Don't just look at it as, hey, this is a big problem that I have to solve, but think of it as, hey, let me break this bigger problem down into smaller issues so that it's more manageable and I can get to the root of the actual issue. The next thing that you'll want to consider doing is before you actually write code is to kind of sketch out what the project is going to look like. You see, when you first begin to code, you want to say, hey, I know I need to start with doing this. I need to start by creating the packages. I need to start by adding this foundation. And yes, that's absolutely correct. But ideally, you would want to whiteboard out or maybe even diagram out what exactly you're building. What does the flow look like? What is the end user experience? Sketching out those comments so that you don't forget what it is that you need to add into the project. And the reason you would want to do this because you want to think through the logic first. It's going to help you avoid unnecessary code, unnecessary JavaScript in your bundle if you're using a JavaScript framework, which ultimately is just going to slow down the user experience. You want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what this project build is going to look like before you actually begin to write code. That way you have a clear direction and you have clear guidance on what exactly needs to be built and up and somewhat of a roadmap on how you're going to get there. The next thing that you'll want to consider is you maybe want to have some sort of tools to help you test out ideas rather quickly. Sometimes you may want to use a REPL or a sample project where you can just plug in some code really quickly, see what that end result looks like, make some small changes before you actually add it to the project itself. This is something that I do rather frequently whenever I'm building a project for someone. I won't necessarily do a lot of testing or sample builds within the main project, but I'll have a second project up that will allow me to do some testing so I could test out the routing. I could test out how the web page reacts to different JavaScript that I'm adding to it. That way I can keep my main project rather clean and it'll help me validate the ideas that I'm thinking through versus me just adding it directly into the main project and having to walk it back and create excessive branches. It just prolongs the overall build process. Now, this next thing, if you have the luxury of doing so, I would certainly gather feedback from someone else that you trust or someone else that can give you a different perspective. You don't want to wait until something is done to kind of share it with someone else. You kind of want to get that feedback early. That way, you know you're on the right path and you know that you're taking the right steps to get your goal accomplished. You want to show the thought process and ask for feedback on the structure, not just the final code. It's not just about, hey, here's my solution. Does this make sense? It's more so of, hey, here's the end game. Here's the thought process. Is this the most efficient manner? And if you don't have a team member that you can leverage, consider joining Discords, consider leveraging with other developers and through Git or GitHub or any of the other social platforms where developers meet and review code regularly. That way you can get a more seasoned, experienced viewpoint that can potentially help you with your project and help it become more efficient. So, in conclusion, in that problem solving journey, these were just some quick tips that you kind of want to think about that have helped me and could potentially help you as well. You don't want to rush straight into code. You want to write down what you're trying to do in plain English first. Break it down into small testable code functions first before you add it into your main project. And then, if you have the luxury of speaking with someone else or getting advice, leverage that because it'll only help make you better, and it'll also help that developer as well, giving them the opportunity to review code and to give feedback and to help you refactor. And that's some tips on how to become a better problem solver in the development journey.